Everyone. Random live stream as normal. If you missed this, you know what to do. Hit that live streams tab and you can catch it on the replay. This world is crazy. I'm like, God, when is your kingdom going to come? Because this is getting activated on this earth. These affairs of men are just interesting to watch. And if you are a disciple of Messiah, you know you are a watchman or a woman, right? So, we just sit back and watch it all play out until the end. But it's interesting just to see the dynamics play out in the world of politics, social politics. It's interesting how you can even see the power of the people play out, right? So you got Elon Musk, right? He's almost considered the vice president, pseudo vice president to Donald Trump, right? He's been taking on the task of government efficiency, right? And a lot of people aren't happy with how things are going down with Doge. There are some people who are celebrating the cut of government spending, but there are a lot of people who are looking at what they are doing as kind of wild, wild west, right? They just and I can kind of look at the logic two ways. Like the Trump administration is like everybody wants us to cut spending. That's been the consensus among Americans. Many business leaders have mentioned this over the decades that the United States spending has gotten out of control. We are spending on very frivolous things. And I think what happens is when you start spending, when you start giving people free stuff, when you start having all these subsidies, people get conditioned into these things, not realizing that these things contradict the overall health of the country, right? And I think what happens is people, when these things go away, obviously a lot of these programs were managed by other, like a large staff of people, right? And a lot of times with these democratic organizations, they tend to have a lot of fat because really they have a bunch of lazy ass people working there and they're trying to figure out multiple ways to delegate things. Like and it's so funny because they put lazy culture on black people, but I think if you really dig down deep into some of these large government programs, at the heart of those are a bunch of lazy freaking people who will hire more people to do the job that a reasonable one or two or three people, they'll have like 15, and everybody's just sitting around with a bunch of free time and not really on the grind during the work hours, you know? And so, I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at these cuts. Of course, we know this is layoff season, y'all. This is layoff season, all right? And if you are not, I mean, and we can't control anything that we do not own. And that's just word 100. Beyond the federal government, this is layoff season. We are seeing the private sector follow suit with what the federal government is doing. When they are laying off, the private sector tends to follow them, right? So this is a layoff season for a lot of people, right? So beyond Elon coming in with Doge, right? This is probably just perplexing for a lot of people to see the federal government laying off to the degree that it's laying off. But again, when you're talking about cutting the fat and everybody agrees that there is fat to be cut, it has to start somewhere, right? And again, I think that even JD Vance said it. He said that we're not going to fix these economic issues that America has in 4 years, right? It's taken too long to kind of get into this hole that we are in. And again, I think that when we are talking about mass layoffs, right, and we're talking about efficiencies by using technology, for example, to replace human workers, right? Then there needs to be conversation about what happens to these displaced people, right? Because, you cannot have the government and the private sector both simultaneously laying off the people without there being some way to sustain those people who have been laid off, right? And you can't look at these layoffs that we are seeing the same way as other places, because there is a dramatic lack of job replacement for a lot of people. So even the government people who have lost their jobs, they can go to the private sector, but even the private sector are laying people off. So we're going to have a shit ton of people who are displaced under the Trump administration. They're going to see unemployment rising. And as much as they're trying to cut the fat and cut this, cut that, they still have to mitigate the outcomes of that, right? And so we shall see. But, Elon Musk right now, he's not very happy. He's feeling a bit bullied by the left wing constituents and individuals. And I don't even think it's just the left wingers. I think there are some people who voted for Trump that really maybe didn't realize that, when he said he was going to do X, Y, and Z, he was going to do it indiscriminately. And for some reason, these people, I think some people really had it in their mind that if I voted for Trump, I'm going to be safe from anything that Trump does. And I think a lot of people are realizing that that's not true. You have a lot of Republican-based constituents who were federal workers who were on the chop block. And, they're not very happy. They did not think that this was going, voting for Trump was going to impact their jobs like this. But what I will say is Kamala Harris could have came in and did the same thing, because what is being done right now, you have that conversation of cutting the fat that has come from both sides. And they got paper trail. There's audio of these individuals on both sides in our government who were talking about we need to shrink the government. It has gotten too big. And when you have big government, honestly, that's just a creative short squeeze of our earnings. We don't want big government, right? We want efficient government, right? We don't want regulations out the wazoo, but we want common sense regulations. And so I think a lot of things that are happening are necessary. I knew that, like I said, I've been saying this since 2020, that Americans needed to be here back then during COVID. That was the chaos and the opportunity right there. That was the chaos and the opportunity right then. But they did not want to start doing what they're doing now then, because Americans would have been adjusted, right? Things would have been at least 4 years in motion. And a lot of these impacts, namely tariffs, because remember, Biden capped Trump's tariffs. So they must have not been that bad for the Democrats because they cap them. But off that, Elon is feeling a little bit bullied. Let's see what you're talking about, Elon. What you saying?
It's working because
this is a leftist woman who's just excited because Elon is all in his feelings because they're just vandalizing his stuff. And
top investors at
this
Tesla.
Is what happens when you raise activist demons, right? These people are not loyal. These people are not loyal, right? It's interesting because Tesla to me was a liberal people's car, right? It fed into all their climate junkie madness and all this stuff, whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. So in terms of their ideology about saving the planet, here you have a car company that is actually feeding into that ideology. But unfortunately, the CEO, right, who they said he was kind of, special, right? So, you got to handle special people with care, right? These Democrats are like, nah, forget his autism and Asperger's or whatever he got. we can go after that particular one, right? Because he's Elon Musk and he's ruining our lives, and we're going to go and vandalize his dealerships and shoot up his dealerships, set them on fire. This is the demons that are out there. This is how the modern America, like I talked about that subversion, right? Thomas Schumann, right? The KGB guy, right? This generation, these people are subverted, right? And so their mindset, if I don't like anything, I'm going to get violent. I'm going to burn stuff up. I'm going to shoot stuff up. I'm going to do all of this vandalism stuff, which would be akin to domestic terrorism. And I do agree with the assessment on Fox that if this is organized terrorism against against this company, they should all, if they catch these people, they find it, they all should be publicly shamed in a RICO case. Because, I think that we need to have some decorum and all of this stuff, regardless if you burn up a Tesla, burn up a this, burn up a that, whatever is happening or going down right now, that's not going to stop it, right? This isn't a scenario like Bud where they drafted Dylan Mulvaney to talk to a bunch of country, muscle dudes or whatever, and have their little Bud Light can, and that was like not what that demographic was all about. This isn't like really the same thing, right? That was like a mismatch of communication versus people who are taking their anger and their frustration out on a whole company, right? And again, I think Tesla has definitely suffered the consequences of Elon getting out of his lane. And that's what I really just came on here. And when I'm looking at all this, Elon needs to go back to his lane, because the more he's hanging out with Donald Trump, the more he's been this visible face of politics, the more you are going to piss off people who have actually believed in your company, who have actually invested in your company. You're going to piss those people off. And maybe this is a risk that Elon is willing to take, but obviously this man is not taking it very well, and he doesn't like being bullied by the left. So here we go.
Has publicly called on him to resign today, which is beautiful to see.
Of really hatred and violence from the left. I always thought the left, or Democrats, were supposed to be the party of empathy, the party of caring, and yet they're burning down cars, they're firebombing dealerships, they're firing bullets into the dealerships, they're just smashing up Teslas. Tesla is a peaceful company. We've never done anything harmful. I've never done anything harmful.
I don't think Elon gets it that I don't even know if this is about Tesla, the company, or if it's about him, right? You are the face of Tesla, but you're also the face of a lot of governmental actions that are impacting a crap ton of people. So you are not picking a struggle, Elon. Where is his handlers? Where is this man's handlers? Because they should be helping him to pick a struggle with his condition, right? Like, look, Elon, this is not smart long-term for the company. So you need to make a decision. Do you care about this company, right? Or do you care about being on the wave of this administration and their ideological thought, right? And maybe Elon believes that he is a part of something bigger than Tesla. Maybe he believes that. Maybe he totally believes that what I am doing is bigger than Tesla. And, it gives, I don't give about Tesla, the way that you are watching your company crash and burn is getting all of this backlash. And it's not even because of the product, right? Democrats were willing to, give Tesla vehicles a lot of passes on a lot of things. They didn't care, right? They were still fanning over Tesla, right? But the minute Elon aligns with the Trump administration and starts implementing all of this Doge efficiency, and it starts impacting people, now you see how people turn. They didn't really love Tesla that much. I don't even know if it was really about Tesla or if it was really about Elon. Like, because I don't really, like, I am a patriot. I'm from Metro Detroit. I don't own a Tesla, right? I'm a patriot to our fading big three car companies out here. So I've never bought any vehicle outside of big three Metro Detroit companies, right? So I can't relate to what Tesla vehicle people are going through, too much, because I've been a patriot of my big three. But, I will say that, you got to ask yourself, why did you buy that car? Did you buy it because you just really believed in climate change? Did you buy it because you really like Tesla? You really like the design and models of Tesla? Or did you buy it because of Elon Musk? Right? Because to me, the way that these people are turning on the company, turning on the stock, it seems like you didn't even buy the car because you really like the product. It seemed like you bought the car because of the guy who was running the company, which is a stupid fucking reason to buy a car in the first damn place. So a lot of these people are talking about, I'm rebranding my Tesla, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm sorry, Tesla has a very unique body. So you look like a freaking idiot right now with a Toyota branding on a Tesla. Like, all of this stuff is really absurd to me. I get that people are trying to put out a message, but I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, Elon is still one of the richest people in the world. You're not going to crash and burn Tesla. You're not. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure, because he has the Trump administration so hard on his back, I wouldn't be surprised if some of our military fleet becomes Tesla, some of the government fleet becomes Tesla, just because y'all fucking with the man's company. Right? So, again, regular people, we are losers in this fucking game. We are losers in this game. We can try to play with these people if we want to, right? You can crash these people's stock, right? But you're still hurting other people in the meantime, right? You're hurting your grandparents. You're anybody who's not on this activist, ridiculous stuff, you're hurting them. Right? So it's just a cycle of behaviors and emotions that impact people. And I think that everybody just needs to be conscious of that. That when you react emotionally about stuff, you may think that you are just impacting one person, right? But then, you turn around and you see, okay, well, Tesla's going to have to let some people go, right? They're in financial struggle. Now they're going to be doing mass layoffs. It's just a cycle of shit that is happening, that, like, it's like a chain reaction type of thing that happens. So, everybody's going to be freaking laid off. Maybe Klaus Schwab or what is it? What's the World Economic Forum overlord's name? Is it Klaus Schwab? He's right. You will own nothing and be happy. That's kind of where it looks like we're going. Everybody gonna get laid off. Everybody gonna get short squeezed. And pretty soon I can see us all out in the wilderness. Like, do you got seeds? What kind of seeds do you got? You got cucumbers? Oh, I got watermelon seeds. Do you want to join forces and tribes? Okay, cool. All right. We're going to be joining forces and tribes. Anybody that want to join my tribe, come on. You just got to learn how to plant shit and build. We need carpenters in my tribe in the wilderness, right? We want carpenters, couple of nurses, couple of scholars, right? And the green thumbers, right? We need those skills in our tribe. So if you want to join forces and that's like your mindset, like, let's just stay connected, you guys, right? Because we're going to have to tribe up. I feel like the way shit is going right now, we going to have to click up. We going to have to tribe up, right? And it's not going to be it can't be every man for himself. You need a tribe of people to hold you down, right? We even need some of them military folks in the tribe, right? The ones that's about it, just ready and activated at all times. We need those folks in the tribe too. So tribe up, y'all. Tribe up. But anyways, what do you guys think about Elon? Do y'all think he's getting bullied?
Anything awful. Only done productive things. So I think we just have a deranged. There's some kind of mental illness thing going on here, because this doesn't make any sense.
So,
Elon. Oh, it makes sense, Elon. It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. You came in doging people. You came in with a little freaking, what are they, chainsaw, talk about some chainsaw democracy. You didn't have a whole lot of decorum in with this Doge thing, right? You had the fruity little Republicans, right, geeking you on, trolling people, right? And honestly, if you're gonna troll a constituent base, I would say troll the Republicans, right? Because they do have less of a reactive, sort of thing going on with them. They're not going up like January 6th. If that was the liberals, shit would have been fucked up, right? Let's keep it a buck, right? That was the Republicans, right? So it really didn't get activated like it could. But if January 6th was the liberal constituent base, we would still see the residuals of their damage, because when they're upset, when they're trolled, they fuck shit up. Like they fuck shit up. I didn't see the Republicans when the Democrats trolled them with Dylan Mulvaney and their dear Bud Light. I didn't see them blowing up Bud Light trucks. I didn't They were blowing up the cans on their own property to protest it, but I didn't see them going into these Bud Light buildings and blowing them up and shit like that. Like, they didn't do that, right? So if you're gonna deal with like a unhinged base, I will say take the Republicans. They do got a little bit more chill with their anger. Liberals are in it to fuck shit up. All right? They have a track record of being emotionally driven, emotionally irrational, and when they're upset, they fuck shit up. And they think that shit is cute. They think it empowers them, but really it leaves them less powerless than anything, because things are still going on, moving on the way that they don't freaking like it, right? But it doesn't matter, right? Because they believe in fucking shit up, right? And so that's what they're doing to Elon right now, right? You're on the Trump side of the aisle, right? You're favoring Trump. You're working in the interest of Trump, right? You're doing all these drastic things that were necessary, right? But we just don't like it that you're doing it, right? You're not even making it, softer for us to accept, right? Y'all just doing shit, right? And then y'all trolling a little bit, right? And that's not really making the liberals very happy. So they're like, shit, we gonna fuck shit up. They're like, tank everything. Tank everything. We are going to ruin Elon Musk. I have never seen a person, in the last couple of years, outside of Donald Trump, of course, that has been hated, right? So of course they gonna be best friends. Y'all just moving Trump and Elon ever so closer, right? Oh, they hate you like that too, right? Didn't they vandalize Mar-a-Lago too? Wasn't there some vandalism on Mar-a-Lago at some point during the Trump administration? Y'all, the demons are gonna be demoning. But anyways, last point, and then I'll get in there. You said Trump is fired. Look, I think that Trump is doing what is necessary, but I think that Trump doesn't realize that some of the things that he's doing is a day late, a buck short. And that's what it is. And a lot of Americans, I guess you would have to be firm in economic understanding to really understand what I'm saying. But a lot of stuff that the Trump administration is doing, it's a day late and a buck short. We are knee deep in globalism, and we have been knee deep in relying on other countries, being friends with other countries, letting them punk us economically so that we can have some idea of strategic positioning, right? But a lot of these countries are showing that it's every country for themselves. They will ally with everybody who will play ball. So if America is not going to play ball, and you got to let us, these other countries, charge you way more tariffs than y'all charge us, right? That's basically what the other countries have been doing. And obviously, because a lot of American politicians like to keep alliances and friendships by buying or paying for them, right? A lot of the tariffs that, that we have been experiencing as Americans, right? If people were to peel back the layers, they would be like, damn, these other countries really ain't our friends, because shit's not very equitable, right? It's like having a homie, and it's like you say, okay, I'm gonna charge you maybe, $5, for, every couple of units that you give me or whatever like that, tax or whatever. And then a friend is like, well, I'm not as wealthy as you. So, I'm gonna have to, charge you like 15. And you like, all right, I guess it's the right thing to do. And then you start thinking like over time, like, damn, y'all still doing pretty good. Y'all kind of at par with us economically. Why are we still paying more for your stuff, and you're paying less for ours? So I think that that's kind of the playing field that Trump is on. Like, he wants to balance the tariffs. He thinks that with a mini tariff war, perhaps it will get things leveled off. So if he goes high, right, and they're already high, right, then the negotiating tables at some point will get them leveled to where they need to be, where he believes that they would be fair. So I don't think that these 25, 35% tariffs on some of these nations are going to last forever. They're just a negotiating point. And when you're negotiating, sometimes you got to go high. Sometimes you got to go high, just to get a starting point of bringing it down. So I think that's what they're doing. And again, we'll see how that plays out. A lot of countries, they don't like it, right? But I'm pretty sure they understand it, because if the tables were turned, they'd be doing the same damn thing Trump is doing, right? And we got to keep it a bunk. You ain't friends with somebody if the friendship is not equitable, right? It's just not. Every time y'all go out, you're paying. You're paying. This person can't pay at all, right? Because they got some excuse of why, whatever, whatever, right? It's like, we're not really friends, right? This isn't really equitable, right? At all. And I think that's what it is. I don't lend friend, I don't deal with money with friends, because I like, if you're my friend, we're not having money dealings at all. Don't ask me to borrow it. I won't ask you to borrow it. I like the friendship enough to keep money dealings out of it, right? But everybody friends differently. But last thought, you guys probably saw Jess Hilarious made it back to the Breakfast Club after her spaz out online, about how she was treated. And, I'm gonna have to say that I agree with her to like a small extent, because it's like, when you kind of look at the background of everything, you just got an opportunity. You just got an opportunity from a major radio syndicate. And the first thing you do is you think that I want to get pregnant, right? And a lot of times women do stuff because it's leverageable to do it, right? So when I actually got hired, by a company when I was pregnant, they hired me right on the spot. I said, look, they're like, they didn't care because they knew what I could do for them, right? And a lot of companies, if they believe that you're going to give them the results that they're going to give, you have demonstration of that, right? They will hang in with that pregnancy. But, women have to be realistic that pregnancy is a disruption in the work environment to some extent. So, again, a lot of times most women don't plan their pregnancy. Some women do, right? I don't think it's fair for a company to have any type of family planning requirements on their employees, right? They just have to kind of conform to the environment, if you will. But I just don't think that a woman who just gets a major job at a major company like that, I don't think it's smart to say, I got pregnant on purpose. I wanted to get pregnant. I wanted to have a baby, right? And not understand that when you do that as soon as you start, right? And you're not even, from what other people are saying, she wasn't even forthcoming about her pregnancy, when she started, which, didn't really sit well with, I think, a lot of people. And again, I was pregnant. I put that on the table. Hey, I am 6 months pregnant, right? That means in a couple of months, I'm going to be out of here. It's okay. They were all cool with it, whatever. You have to be transparent about stuff like that. You can't hide your pregnancy because it makes you look like a deceptive person. So I can see on both ends the company feeling a little bit deceived or at least not feeling communicated with, and then just running around with this entitlement. I wanted to do this. This is my life. Whoop de whoop de whoop. And then it's like you leave. You draft your replacement. You draft your replacement, right? And the replacement comes in and do a way better job than you. And I think that's one of the issues that she probably had, is that when people were looking at her replacement, they were looking at a person who was more organized, had more, you know, details in her reporting. And to Jess's, to me, defense, she said, I'm a blogger, YouTuber, whatever. I'm not a reporter, right? And so my style, her style would be different than Lauren's. If Lauren is coming in as a news reporter, right, their styles are going to be different. I am a blogger. I am a YouTuber. I am not a reporter. My style is totally different than your typical reporter. When I'm talking, I'm more like talking like we homies and we just chopping it up about something, right? It is not a reporting style. And I think that was her whole point, is you guys did not hire me to be a reporter. But then I think the Breakfast Club was like, oh, this girl is giving us more than just opinions. Like, she's giving us actual research, right? And this is probably an element of the Breakfast Club, of the, like a piece that they probably needed. So, but I think Jess is kind of, I think she put herself out there horribly. Just to see her, I was shocked to see her on the Breakfast Club yesterday. I think in some respects, you cannot run around with entitlement on something that you do not own. And I agree with Corey Holcomb. You don't own the Breakfast Club. You have no entitlement. You were paid, contracted for a function. And sometimes when you don't own it, your function can change and you either roll with the tides or get the hell on, right? And I think that, Jess Hilarious might be, at the point where she just needs to get the hell on, because I think that viewership is going to continue. If it wasn't the fact that it was the fans who were getting under her skin and basically saying this new girl is better than that old person, right? Older person, or the former girl, right? It was the fans. And I think the Breakfast Club is going to give their fans what they want. And I think that Just Hilarious is probably going to be on the phase out. I think after her live stream yesterday, just kind of putting the show and the cast on blast, I think that they were civil. This could be a pro and a con for the Breakfast Club. It could be people tune in because they want to see if Lauren and Jess have some kind of queen spat or cat spat, right? Or this could be a phase out because neither one of those women could be interested in doing that to each other. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know. Let me run to the comments real quick, and then I got to get off so that I can get on with the day. Prayers up to those who have been laid off or who are facing layoff. Like I said, this is layoff season. And I think the days of working at a company for 10, 20 years, that's over. That's over. And, and it's unfortunate that people can't have longevity in companies these days, but it is what it is. It's the world that we live in. So that is what it is. So, all right, here we go. Hi, new here, 300. I'm sorry, honey, you're not gonna sell your weed here, so we're not gonna do that. Here we go. I'm glad I had to get to these comments because it's always the special people who chime in. What's going on? You said, what's my job? I work in financial services. My bad, hon. I thought you was a Dem. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm just a human that hates all of it. Appreciate thoughts this morning. Thanks so much, Cognitive Dissonant. And I think anybody committed to a political party has cognitive dissonance. You said stop wars. Only God will do that. And only God. Judgment is coming to all of these nations. I don't care if you're America, China, Russia, whatever. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is coming for you. judgment is coming upon the nations. I truly do believe that. If your clergymen did not teach you that that statue in Daniel was actually the timeline of man and the political structures of man, and that we are the feet mixed with iron and clay, and that America and Israel represents that second beast in the Revelation because they're not monarchical and they didn't have crowns, right? The first beast had 10 crowns, right? 10 horns, 10 crowns, right? And we know who those nations are: Germany, France, all those fragment bastard nations of the Roman Empire, right? But that new beast was another thing. It was more of an enlightenment creature, right? And it rose in an enlightenment era where people were like, we don't want a king or a pope, right? And that's exactly how the United States was founded, on enlightenment principles: no king, no pope, republic of the people. This is why America is a constitutional republic with a democratic process. But I had a different teacher than a lot of people, so I don't know. I feel like my generation was the last rites of common sense American education. And I think if we were to take Yuri, whatever his last name is, Thomas Schumann is the other name of the guy, right? If we were to take him literally, that 1975, 78 to 1990s generations of people, we were that control group. We were not subverted. We were raised to be global competitors, which is much different than our generational counterparts in X, because they were still activists, right? And your baby boomers, they were products of activists. So we were the products of baby boomers. We were not subverted into activism. We were subverted into being global competitors. So that is why our mindsets are different. So if you were in the age group of 1975 to 1990, you were probably some of the most stoic, independent Americans. You don't have a position. You really weren't programmed to have a side on anything, right? And that's why even if you were raised in one side, you still fell back to being an independent, neutral person, because that wasn't your conditioning, right? Millennials, and this is why I refuse to believe that anybody in their 40s is considered a millennial. We are not millennials. We are not millennials. We are anybody born after 1990, maybe 1995, that would be considered a millennial. You're not going to skip from X, generation X, and then skip Y. We are generation Y, and we were that control group that was not subverted into activism and radicalism. And that's why most of the people in my age group were not interested in that. We sit back and watch the shit, but we don't participate. We're not activists. We weren't programmed to be that. But the generations before and after us were. So y'all want to understand subversion, you got to look at the social dynamics of America, and you got to look at how each one of these generations are operating. That's how you're going to understand the levels of subversion and how they have played out in America. So a lot of the people that are in our politics, they're not from my generation. J.D. Vance is from my generation, but everybody, most of the other people, they're either falling between those subverted generations of activists. That's why, you really do need more people in their 40s, really core 40s people, in the government, right? You don't need the young ones. You don't need the substantially old ones. And this is not an ageism thing. This is really about psychological manipulation, and even just, levels of looking at things with a common sense versus a emotional disposition, which generations before us and after us, they look at things like that. So if you like conversations like this, I got to get going, because I work on Central Time. So it's 7:47 right now, Central Time. And so I got to get myself ready. to get on with the day. But if you guys like talking like this, I'll do another live stream tomorrow just to do my Friday wrap up. And we can chop it up again. Let me know what you guys think about little Elon. You know, bro, feeling a little bullied right now. He's getting bullied by these leftists. They bullying his ass. It's so funny because when I grew up with a couple of principles, right? Don't buy into peer pressure. Now peer pressure is normalized, right? Don't bully people. Now bullying people is normalized, right? And knowledge is empowerment. And yet people have all this information at their fingertip, and yet they are dumber than a sack of diapers. So this is the world that we're living in, guys. The world is crazy. Shout out to Cognitive Dissonance. What's up, Wisconsin? Midwest in the house. Shout out to my Midwest folks too. I'm Midwest to the core. Midwest to the core. So, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. I will catch you on the next one. Love your neighbor as yourself. If you would not disrespect or abuse yourself, do not disrespect or abuse your neighbor. Bye.